Dr. Carson, the third Republican debate is over. It is the first one that you have come in as the front runner, according to the CBS News New York Times poll. How do you think that you did?
I thought things went quite well. I would have liked to have had, a few more questions, but all in all, I thought things went very well.
How much time do you spend prepping for these debates?
We spent one day prepping for them.
And to your mind, is that adequate for trying to cover the amount of ground when I'm looking at the numbers now and how many minutes that you were able to talk? Looks like 5 minutes and 28 seconds, where Marco Rubio spoke for almost 9 minutes, 8 minutes and 44 seconds to be exact.
Yeah, well, one of the problems with the format is that if you butt in, you get more time, and I just am not a butt-in type person by nature.
Given that this was a debate on CNBC and the focus was intended to be on fiscal policy, do you feel like the ground that voters were able to cover, that they were able to hear from the candidates, was adequate?
No. I would have liked to have seen some real substantive questions asked of all of us. I would have, wanted them to delve more into why we thought the recent deal with Congress raising the debt ceiling was good or bad, and why. Those are the kinds of things that really allow you to get into somebody's head and figure out how they think about things.
Okay, so given that you just brought it up, let me ask you, the House has passed a bipartisan bill that will head to the Senate. Your opponent, Senator Rand Paul, says he will filibuster it in the Senate. What's your take on the legislation that's pending?
My take is that they need to always tether, if they do something like this, it has to be tethered to spending cuts so that they're not in the same situation the following year. The problem is this is repetitive behavior. It keeps happening. We keep raising the debt ceiling. We're going to be approaching $20 trillion in debt soon. And who has to pay that? Our children, our grandchildren, and their children. It is absolutely absurd.
What's the alternative?
And we must know that this is wrong, and yet we continue to do it. The alternative is to stop and look at places where we can be responsible. There are 645 agencies and sub-agencies. You can't tell me that there's not fat to be cut out in all of those places. And the other alternative is to grow our economy.
I know as a neurosurgeon that you have managed teams, medical teams in the operating room. I don't know if you've ever been around a meeting table and tried to get a consensus of 15 people, but how would you manage to get a consensus of hundreds of lawmakers on Capitol Hill in order to get the kind of cooperation needed to cut out agencies that would allow you to save the kind of money that you would need to save in order to avoid raising the debt ceiling?
Well, first of all, you have to talk with them. This administration does not spend a lot of time talking with our lawmakers, and that's how you develop relationships. The other thing that I think is vitally important is that we expose what people are doing. All the legislators need to be exposed to the public who are the ones who vote for them. They should never be able to do what they do under the cover of secrecy.
You were asked in a rather roundabout way today about your involvement with a company who supports gay rights. And I thought that you gave a very nuanced, complex answer about gay marriage and your support or your opposition to it versus homophobia. Will you go through that once again?
Yeah, well, the Constitution protects everyone in our society, regardless of their sexual orientation or other characteristics. And we should always remember that. But there are those of us, me included, who believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. That is a very traditional belief. That is not a far out in the field belief. And that does not mean that you're a homophobe. And we've gotten into the situation in our society where, if you're pro-life, you're anti-woman. If you're for traditional marriage, you're homophobic. If you're white and you disagree with a progressive black person, you're racist. You know, on and on it goes. Why do we have to categorize everybody? It just doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Carson, before I let you go, the head of the RNC has tweeted out that CNBC should be ashamed of the way this debate unfolded. What did you think of the moderators? Did you think their questions were fair?
No, they were not fair. Compared to the questions that were asked at the Democratic debate, night and day difference. And I'm glad they were called out on it, and I'm glad the audience recognized that it was going on too.
Dr. Ben Carson, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, sir.
A pleasure. Thank you.